Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to episode 2 of Cheap Cans, Broken Vans and Basement Bar Bands. It's not really cheap cans, is it? You know, what are we on? Brew I'm on, which was over £3 a can, but that's how things change because we're rolling in money now.
Just grown up.
We're not.
Hipster snobs.
So, supporting independent breweries that are involved in the punk scene. That's what I'd say.
The support these
This is
sport bands.
Yeah, very good.
Just fire anything, Andy.
This is episode 2 of our new podcast, and we are going through every single TNS release in order, and we're talking about how that release came about, and it's just a nod to all the awesome bands who have been involved with TNS over the years, and hopefully a chance for some people to revisit some exciting music that they used to love, perhaps still do love, and for some people who are new to TNS to find out about some bands that they might really like that they perhaps aren't aware of. So today we are 11 to 20 in the list of releases. So episode 2.
It's interesting. It's reminding me about stuff we've done. I'm not really good at remembering things and thinking back. I need documentation to remember this stuff, which is a good reason to do a record label.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Like the fanzine, which is where TNS started. I looked through it. And I look for the ones from right at the start and I think, well, what the fuck are you talking about? Amazing documentation of things that you did think, and you can see how you changed your mind on different things related to music or the wider world. And then it's also the amount of times I look for an old fanzine and I think, oh, I'd completely forgotten about that band, and you listen to it and it's still mint.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. It's like, it is interesting to see how your opinion changes or what was important to you at different points. Or that we thought it was sensible to put MySpace on everything. Or that I used to allow www. At the start of web addresses on things as well. And I'm not sure at what point my opinion changed on that to a definite no, it's not needed. Anyway, should we go on to number 11?
I don't sleep.
Leagues Apart.
Leagues Apart.
So memory. I felt like this was a bit later when I was prepping for this podcast. I was thinking that we'd done the Standout Riot album before Leagues Apart, because obviously Francis at Standout Riot is in Leagues Apart, but it was the TNSOA EP that we'd done before Leagues Apart and not the album.
Yeah.
So Leagues Apart was a bit of a different one for us, I think. It was a slightly different sound to anything we'd done before.
Yeah.
More melodic sort of gruff punk sort of sound. I guess they were one of the first bands to really gig in Europe a lot as well, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And they had a track called Kieran Looks Like Rob Brydon. For you, leading you, Kieran, from moving off. And it's true. He does.
It's true, yeah. My favourite Leagues Apart moment was at Strummer Camp, and it's worth mentioning Strummer Camp because it's been a big part of TNS. I think when we first got the stage at Strummer Camp, it was really an opportunity for us to get all the bands together over a weekend, and brilliant memories and brilliant times. Leagues Apart playing Strummer Camp and James playing his guitar whilst riding a bike. That's and I know that happened because I've seen a photo of it.
I didn't, or maybe I must have forgotten that Dan Allen had done the artwork on this as well.
Yeah. Well, perhaps before we knew Dan very well as well.
Yeah, probably very true. So yeah, it's a great, I guess it's more of an EP than an album.
7 songs, isn't it? So
yeah. What's the magic number for an album, really? 10?
Well, people used to say 10 was a mini album and above 10 was an album, didn't they? I
Yeah.
don't know who people are, but it's ingrained in my memory somewhere.
But yeah, so that's very good. You should check that out if you haven't.
We do have copies of that one.
And they've got an album as well that we might have on our distro. That's definitely worth checking out.
Next up, I did the art for this one.
I was going to say it's a bit. This is only 10 tracks as well. I've got a memory of, I think it was, would it have been Sam from Faintest Idea phoning me up? And I don't even know where he got my number from. I remember lying in bed in my flat when I lived with Phil, and him phoning up and saying, "Do you want to do our album?" Which was not really kind of the phone calls we get. It's a good job to fuck off, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we've stuck by them over the years, haven't we?
Yeah. We like them in a way.
You grow to like these people.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, we've done a lot with Fate's Idea, and there's more to come.
I think the idea for me are one of the bands that really bridges the gap between the two sounds we were going for in the early days. We had a lot of the ska stuff going on, we had a lot of punk stuff going on, and very much in the early days, Faintest Idea actually did a bit of both, didn't they?
Yeah.
Perhaps they're more of a ska band these days, but with huge punk elements. But in the early days, there'd be a punk song and a ska song. A bit restartsy in a way.
What was their album before? They released an album before this, didn't they? That they don't really talk about.
Someone posted an image of it the other day.
Yeah. A bit like Revenge don't really talk about their music before Make Pig Spoke.
Well, maybe. So,
I was looking at party in the band before, actually. Anyway, back on track. So yeah, this is the first Faintest Idea album on TNS. Want to tell us anything about the artwork, Andy?
well, they had this idea of a man with a briefcase who was like sort of, at the cause of all the world's problems. So I had this idea of opening the briefcase and all awful things coming out of the briefcase, like related to war or climate change and stuff. So yeah, quite an interesting idea. Not sure I do it exactly the same now, but
That's it. You change and evolve.
it's quite nice visually though. It's all right. I'm not embarrassed to look at it, so that's a bonus.
Always a bonus. And yet another recording by Tim G as well.
Yeah. The Faintest Idea, interestingly, used to just try to annoy Tim G all the time. So they used to just phone him up and just start talking to him. And after about 10 minutes, he'd politely say, "Oh, why have you phoned me?" And they'd just go, "Oh, we just fancied a chat." So there you go. What a funny story.
What's the voice?
So I think next up,
I've got the wrong.
it's quite an interesting thing musically, sort of a bit of a change of direction to stuff we've done before, but I think a really, really important band to the history of TNS. So we've got...
I picked up the wrong one. I picked up the wrong Bootscaper album.
You made me think I got the wrong CD up. No, but yeah. So Bootscaper, if you don't know them, which I'm sure most people who are bothered to check this out will, are very much on the sort of folky side of what TNS has done. But from day one, the way they approached their music was just really innovative. It's just trying loads and loads of different things out. Really good songwriting, good split vocals. So it was something I remember thinking when it first became an option to do it. This is quite different to what we've done before, but it was something I was listening to all the time and I thought it worked. And I think a big thing about TNS is this mix of different sounds that can work together on the same gig. And you know, on the same label and the same compilation at times. So it was an exciting thing to take on.
Yeah, it's I guess it might hurt us in a way that we don't have a set thing that we're known for, a set sound. But I feel like we can probably get drunk and tell you the link between all the bands and the kind of the common theme that goes between them. And I think Bootscaper really embody that. But then I guess on the other side, you get a lot of people saying that all TNS bands sound the same, and you can put Bootscaper next to No Fealty, and they're not the same. Or Bootscaper next to the next release, which is Beat the Red Light. It's very kind of different sounds, but I feel like there's a common goal, a common aim, a common brotherhood.
When I first got to know Tim Loud, I remember talking about this when we were quite drunk, and he was saying, you know, I see us a punk band by ethos, but not by sound. And we got into the whole idea of punk as an ethos, and I think that is something that binds the TNS bands together, isn't it? The ethos, like, you know, all these bands, and we say it all the time, but all these bands are people putting on gigs, they're supporting other bands, they don't see being on TNS as like, we've got on a label now, let's stop. And it would be a terrible mistake to do that on TNS because we're still pretty small. They see it as a collective where people work together and help each other out. And, you know, that involves helping other bands out. And the people at Bootscaper have always done that, haven't they? They've always been putting on gigs. You know, we had some amazing times at the gigs in Leeds that Tim used to put on, and it's been good, isn't it? Like seeing these little scenes build up and turn into quite big scenes in some instances.
Well, yeah, what was pretty much an early Bootscaper practice before a Leeds gig that Revenge played.
Yeah,
Is that a real memory of mine?
Yeah, it was before Royal Park Cellars, and yeah, so Matt went to school with some people at Bootscaper, and yeah, so we met up with them before, and Cass and Tim were jamming, weren't they? And
yeah,
so we were there right from the start in that way, which was cool. And then they all came to the gig after. And yeah, it's nice. And then they were a big part of Strummer Camp because the Hemp and Jig stage. So obviously Tim ran the Hemp and Jig gigs in Leeds at the dry dock most of the time, which was cool because it's like a boat, which was always a bonus. And then obviously that ended up having a stage at Strummer Camp, and I think Strummer Camp, as we've said before, was huge in those formative years.
Yeah, very much so. So yeah, that was, I think we're, a bit of context, we're somewhere in 2012 now.
Yeah. And on the subject of Tim's stage at Strummer Camp, the next band, who is Beat the Red Light again, they did a secret set, didn't they, in the little acoustics tent.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten about that.
Again, you couldn't really fit as many people as were in the band in the tent, but we tried, and people were just, it was amazing. It looked like something out of a cartoon where like everything was packed into something and people started popping out of it. We were on tour with Revenge, and we heard this album before it had all the vocals on, didn't we? And I remember the really, really heavy parts. Pook was like going, is this going to be all right on TNS? And we went, yeah. But it was really amazing to go from Bootscaper to Beat Light. Actually, genuinely work well on a gig together, but sounds so different.
Yeah, just Beat the Red Light and it just going off. It's just something special. Just the release of these guys just hitting it. Very nice.
Yeah, it's just Beat the Red Light. The live sound is just so huge. The brass,
yeah,
massive, isn't it? Like, it's just such a a weird mix of things to put together, but it just makes absolute sense when you get it, doesn't it? And you know, we get it. For us, it's a really special experience seeing Beat Red Light live.
Especially after that, first gig in Colwyn we saw, and then we've put them on quite a lot. Played a lot of big gigs for us.
And then Redeemin, which is several members of Beat the Red Light, are on the new compilation as well. It's a Stand That Right album, which was the second album. We kind of sort of helped them out, didn't we, on the first album, but it wasn't an official release. And then we did the split, which went down really well. And then we were fully involved with this album, which is an absolute classic, I would say. It's brilliant.
Yeah, very much so. And this is an album that we revisited many years later and put on vinyl as well. So we've both got this on CD and vinyl. It's is it Splatter? Is it like, I've forgotten what variant it is. Is it yellow and blue?
I just knocked my booze down on the floor.
Yeah, buy one of them. We've got a few.
It is Splatter.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it's a great album. So it's, another, well, they're from New Mills, but yeah, very much kind of TNS ska bar, Manchester scene band. Follows through with. Well, Francis has been on a few releases up to this point. He's the singer out of Stand Up Riot. He was in Leagues Apart.
I think a really interesting thing with Stand Up Riot, and I know that people in Stand Up Riot hate it when you say this, but I literally remember seeing Stand Up Riot play when Tessa was about 11 or something. And we had
not been able to get into venues
and say, look, there's some people who are younger than us in this band, but they're brilliant, and you know, are they allowed to play? And they were like, well, they're allowed to if they're performers. And you know, seeing that band when they were kids, and they were just brilliant as kids, and then
amazing music.
Just one of the best live bands you can imagine, aren't they? And it's you feel like you've been part of a full journey, don't you, with bands like Stand That Riot?
Yeah, they don't play very much now, but there's still the odd gig that they'll get back together for, because they're scattered all over the place at the moment. But yeah, check them out if you get the chance.
Yeah. That moves us on to, I would say this CD is a big change in what we did, isn't it? It was a sort of stepping stone.
Mr. Snowman, how does it feel to be covered in dust? There are flags everywhere, since your fell into March, but I still fix you up, hope you won't break again, as I hope I never.
So we've got. So this features 4 different bands. We've got Mighty Midgets, Revenge of the Psychotronic Man, Fist of the North Star, and Broken Arrows. And it's really intelligently named the 4-band split.
This for me was a big release, because TNS, everything we've ever done has happened so gradually, hasn't it? You've not really noticed any change. It's still been everyone going to the same pubs in Manchester going, oh, check out this band, they're wicked, or whatever. And then this release was 4 bands from 4 different countries, released by 3 labels from 3 different countries. And you thought, actually, through the wonders of the internet, but most importantly, through the wonders of independent DIY punk music, you'd met these like-minded people who lived in other places, like in America, in Denmark, who were doing very, very similar things. It came about originally because Fist of the North Star, they run a label, Mighty Midgets members of Mighty Midgets run a label, and they'd sent us stuff to review in the fanzine, hadn't they? And we'd end up swapping stock and things like that, and buying stock off each other. And then it turned into a collaboration. And I think the idea of collaborations has always been important to us, but this being an actual international collaboration, which doesn't seem unusual when you say it now, does it? No. It happens all the time, but then it was absolutely ridiculous to think, wow, they're going to release this in America to a similar little scene that's like what we've got, and then they're doing it in Denmark, and then we managed to get, in some shape or form, all the bands to the UK, haven't we? Fist of North Star never made it to UK, but members of Fist of North Star made it over in their new band, and Mighty Midgets came over and played MPF, which was absolutely one of the most special moments in the whole of TNS for me. And Broken Arrows came and played Strummer Camp, and it went down really, really well. And we're really good friends with those bands, and still in touch and still speak. And
yeah, so much has come from it as well. It's but yeah, it really was changing, like, kind of outlook, wasn't it? And kind of opened more stuff up to us. But there's that kind of, you achieve something and then you're there, but then when you can realise something else is possible, and it kind of expands your horizons and what you kind of aim for, which I think is very important.
Yeah, totally. I think
look at the picture of Andy with a tiny beard.
Very snazzy. It opened up the idea of what the distro could do.
Yeah.
Our budget has always been tiny. It's a not-for-profit DIY label. But, that was an opportunity to release some bands from another country that you couldn't, at that point, have done a full album for. But the idea of a collaboration can help you, release bands from other countries. But stocking stuff in the distro, we had like all these American bands and Swedish and Danish bands that come from their labels in the distro, and it was a chance to get some people to hear bands from further afield and just spread the word about like small little communities of interesting bands who were doing similar things all over the world. And that was an amazing thing, really. And I think the distro is a really important part of TNS, isn't it? Like, we can't release every single record, but we can help spread the word about bands through the distro. And, lots of people come to us and say, what have you got in the distro? What do you like? What would I like? And that's ace. I love that.
Yeah, we could, well, for my Midgets for example, we could take their releases or releases that they've put out through 5 Feet Under Records, which then led to our collaborations on other future releases. But yeah, they're in the distro, you sell this, and then you've got the chance of selling 4 other albums. But yeah, the distro is really important for trade as well. Get our releases out to similar distros around the world, and people want to discover new things and check new things out. You forget how many tracks are on this, actually, don't you?
Yeah, Mighty Midgets did like 6, didn't they?
Yeah, 20 tracks overall. And it was Neil's graphics, wasn't it? Neil's illustrations.
We did, yeah, it's his illustrations and I did the layout. So he sent me some illustrations. So it was a full-on collaboration in terms of the artwork as well, which was obviously, like, we've met quite a few times now and hung out and had a good time together. But at the time, it was quite an interesting thing because we were just sending each other bits of artwork and bits of design and just going, oh, change this. And it was quite an interesting thing, which I guess was in the way the whole CD worked, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just sharing of ideas and coming together to make something happen, which is a bit bigger as well. So it was the most we'd ever pressed of something, wasn't it? Because there was so many people involved.
What was it? Was it
2,000, which was
2,000 total.
What we were doing of everything else at the time. But it was obviously 500 each because there was the 4 different bands and the 3 different labels.
We've got a hidden quote on this one as well. Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much.
Yeah, so that's another thing me and Neil talked about for ages, that quote. We have a big list, I think, and that was the one we came to in the end.
So pretentious, aren't we?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yeah. So another band who have sort of ska sensibilities, but do it in such a unique way.
Yeah.
For years and years, I used to say that "Sane in Insane Places" was the best TNS song. This album's so good, but that song is just huge. I love it, and when they play it live, it's just sends a shiver down my spine. I love it. But yeah, such a great band, and like members of that band are in Follow Your Dreams now, who we'll come to in a later episode. But
yeah, it's a weird spell we're going through here. There's more ska than it. I don't know. It feels we've done, if you know what I mean. From 12 to 12 to this at 17, but if you listen to those bands, it's like we've already covered, it's quite a wide range, and a ska core kind of. There's a lot more to those releases than you'd think from us just saying that they're ska influenced.
Yeah, totally. I think that was a big thing nationally as well. There was a lot of stuff with a ska influence happening, wasn't there?
Yeah.
It was people trying to take elements from a genre and include other elements, and it was a bit of a mashup of ideas, which is exciting, isn't it?
Very much so. I think we've still got copies of this, haven't we?
Not many, but I think
we've got a few.
Yeah.
I guess we move on to next one. I've got the CD version. Oh, you got both. Shows how prepared you are.
In the spirit of collaboration, this was a multi-label release, and it's something we don't do loads of anymore, but at the time it sort of made sense, didn't it, to do a few multi-label releases. So there were several labels involved in that, which at the time made it viable to do a vinyl version. It wasn't viable financially to do a full vinyl version of everything at that point. And
this is the first LP that we're involved in.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously that's the only way. This is the first one we're involved in. This is the first time we've been able to afford to do it. Is joint release with lots of people. It's
always involved in this one.
Yeah, this is another very much a Manchester release. Obviously, with from Rusholme with Dub. Got a picture of the Whitworth pub that I've spent a lot of time in on the back. I used to live around the corner from there. So yeah, this is put together, I think, by Pumpkin took the lead on this one and put it all together. Pumpkin Records that we've worked with a lot. So I guess, this is kind of slightly different on the collaboration front to 16 in the fact that that was kind of this is kind of a release that's been led by a label to pull other labels together to put out. Yeah. Whereas 16 was kind of all three labels working together. But yeah, it's great records. I think it's long sold out.
Yeah, it has. We still get people messaging asking if we've got copies actually. Well, yeah, like both bands have gone on to play amazing sets at MPF and things like that, haven't they? And Black Star at the time had Mike out of Harajan doing vocals, so obviously he had a long-term connection with TNS. But yeah, it was really amazing to see how well those bands went on to do. Really, Autonomads like toured all over, didn't they? And
yeah, a lot of touring.
yeah.
Did they take Harajan out on tour as well at some point?
Yeah,
Or I made that up.
I think that happened.
But yeah, they've got So Mike from Harajan, singer of this band at this time. So yeah, another reason to check out this record and to check out the Harajan record.
So hate so proven. So yeah, this was a band who they came from Warrington, and they just started playing early on the bill to begin with at a lot of local gigs, and everyone was just like, wow, who are these? Just everyone who saw them just took a step back and was like, this band are amazing live. There's something really new and interesting. And yeah,
really like this. Yeah, it's a great record, and as pretentious as TNS 16, the text on this says "Party on, all right."
I remember sitting with them in a pub and saying, "Yeah," and sometimes we put some. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll do that." But yeah, this is one. I like to do things like this because it helps you revisit things that you've done in the past. And I listened to this recently. It's such a good record, and we were so into these at the time that they ended up being the first track on the next record, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I remember like being at a gig they were playing at Star and Garter and looking at each other. We had one of those Beat the Red Light moments, and we were like, track one. And when they were playing the song that ended up being track, we were like, this is sort of epitomizes what we're doing at the moment, doesn't it? It's a great start to the album. So yeah, well, I guess that's as good a time as any to move on to our last album from episode 2 of this podcast, which is These Troublesome Thinkers.
I think it was done deliberately to rid us of all these troublesome thinkers and artists.
Oh, there's so many stories and memories for this one. So on the front is Danny Camp out of Faintest Ideas' dog Louis, Danny and Holly's dog. Sorry, Holly. And so on a pretentious note, there's a designer called Stefan Sagmeister, and he says, if your design is not working, put a dog in it. If your design's still not working, put a bandage on the dog. So there's a bandage on the dog on the back. So I think photo shoots to this, and getting Louis to pose for that picture was as hard work as you'd imagine. But my brother and sister-in-law's dog was a much better poser. But yeah.
The possibilities are endless, I'd still. There's so many quotes in this, isn't there? I haven't looked at it.
So These Troublesome Thinkers is a reference to a Stuart Lee interview, and it was around the time. So I'm a teacher, if you didn't know. Like, it was around the time EMA got removed. It was around the time that they put university fees up to a massive amount of money that most people would be terrified of. And Stuart Lee did this interview, and he said, "I think it's a deliberate attempt to quieten down these troublesome thinkers and artists." And it's worth checking out. It's on YouTube and stuff. It's an amazing interview. But I went to see Stuart Lee, and I was quite drunk. And he does his own signings at the end of gigs, and so I'd like emailed his agent and said, we don't want to sample Stuart Lee without his permission. So we decided to call it These Troublesome Thinkers and put a sample at the start of the compilation where he you know, basically talking about this idea of Troublesome Think as an artist. So I plucked up the courage to go up to him at the end of the gig and say, like, oh yeah, we're the people putting out that CD that you know, is going to have your sample at the start. And he was so like, he's such a nice bloke, so like happy about it. He went, oh really, really? And he just looked at his merch desk and went, is there anything you've not got on here? And I'm a bit of a Stuart Lee fan, as you are, so there wasn't many things, but there was one CD. It was like, What Would Judas Do? It was called. I went, I've not got that. And he went, have it. And I went, I can't have it. Like, I went, you know, I know, like, at the time he wasn't quite as big, and he talked a lot about how to make it work as
He was pretty big. He was
big. Like, it depends on your definition of what big is. He talked about how much money he needs to earn.
Yeah.
In some of his, so I can't just have it. I know how important like your merch sales are and stuff. And he went, yeah, I'm not giving it yet. It's a swap, isn't it? He went, it's a swap. So when that CD is ready, you bring that CD next time you come and see me and pass it on. And, you know, you take this away now, which I thought was dead cool. So again, it's so out of my comfort zone to go up to someone who's like Stuart. But then we went to see him in Manchester at the Lowry when we'd got it, didn't we? And
yeah.
And I was like, I've got that CD, mate.
He did remember though. He put on that he remembered anyway.
Well, he got up, didn't he? And he was like so happy. And, yeah. So it was really, really nice that he reacted in that way, really. But yeah.
Yeah, it's some quite interesting quotes that, I don't know, I guess it's from stuff we were reading at the time.
Yeah, so it's full of quotes, isn't it? We made
like
filled it with quotes by different artists and musicians and politicians and
Our Club, Our Rules, FC United. Yeah, there's loads of stuff. Just buy it. Have we got any of these left? I can't remember.
I don't think we have, but yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, I've not looked at that in years.
No, I haven't either.
But
it's another double CD job, eh?
We've got a Guy Debord quoting pretentious cunts.
Somebody's an artist.
Plenty of Marcel Duchamp, that's good.
But yeah, it's definitely.
Very nice.
Yeah, we all ordered the tracks on this bit differently, didn't we? We discussed it in the last episode. Started off with Hate Till Proven, and then to Stand Up Riot and just mixing it up.
Yeah, there was a little section, wasn't there? And I'm saying this, and I haven't prepared where it is, but so it was Population, Stars Burn Stripes, Revenge, Population, Stars Burn Stripes, one after the other. So like thrash into dance music into melodic punk. I thought that was really nice. That worked dead well. But yeah, that we made a conscious decision to not do what we'd done in Volume 2, didn't we?
Yeah,
Stuff together that wouldn't really.
A lot of thoughts got into the flow of it. So it's 42 tracks, 42 bands. So there's a lot going on, which you can do when you're not putting it on vinyl.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is actually we got a sampler, haven't we, that was physically came with a magazine that we put as a compilation out since this, but this is the last kind of proper release that was done as a compilation until TNS 100.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happened, really, isn't it? Like, I don't remember a cut-off point where we said there's no point doing compilations anymore, but obviously it must have been connected to everything being online.
Yeah, I think so.
It's such a big thing when like people were stealing our releases and making them free online and stuff, and it's sort of a memory that's sort of everything's just online. But
weird that you get a notification and say, "Oh, it's available to download here," and you're just like, "Well, just we're not making money out of this. If you want these things to happen, send some our way." But and then we kind of resisted downloads and streaming for a while as well, didn't we? were wanting to go with the physical release, but at some point we changed our mind and went more for went full out with the streaming and digital downloads. But I guess it must be, I don't know, I'd have to reflect on it, but it must be kind of linked to that we just didn't feel that there was a need to put out a compilation as such.
It's interesting when you talk to people about the compilations as well. Like, a lot of people say, do another compilation. We've done one, you better fucking buy it, mate. But, you know, like, a lot of people say, oh, it's really got me into so many bands. You know, so why do you not do them anymore? And then we sort of talk about it and we're like, well, maybe we'll do one for 100, but does it work anymore?
Yeah.
Maybe it does. I don't know. Like, there's so much music online, but it seems such a ridiculous idea to do one. And we've kind of done it for TNS 100 out of nostalgia to an extent, haven't we? But maybe people want that. Maybe people want a physical release that you spend a bit more time with. The big difference for me between physical releases and digital releases is, if I've bought a record, I'm going to sit and listen to that record all the way through. I mean, it's hard to skip between the tracks on a record anyway, but I'm going to listen to it all the way through because I've paid money for it, and, you know, it's part of my collection, and I want to spend some time with it. I want to enjoy it. And I go back right to when I first got into music as a teenager. You could only afford one album every 5 or 6 weeks if you were lucky, really. So that album would be the one you listen to. There was no way to listen to it online, because online wasn't a thing. You just listen to it, and you'd fall in love with it, and you'd know all the songs really, really well. And maybe compilations are going to be a relevant thing again in the future, because there's so much stuff online.
Right through.
Yeah.
So I guess online you've got playlists that are, you know, you just trust somebody on a playlist, and, you know, it's easy to come by and easy to check out. But I guess the difference with a physical release is that the playlist you just put in the background or put it on when you're doing something else, and you don't really pay attention as much, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
we obviously took the decision at TNS20, what was it, 8 years ago, that this would be our last kind of compilation. But there are a lot of effort to put out and pull together. And we don't, you know, we just do TNS in our spare time. We don't, it's not our jobs. We don't have, you know, we've got 101 other responsibilities to do. So sometimes I guess it comes down to a choice between put out a compilation or put out this album. And
yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, it's hours of work to put out TNS 100, hasn't it?
Yeah. And that's not got as many bands as that has.
Yeah. I never forget, like, when that came out. I think it was, I can't remember, it was at work, I think, when someone said, you don't know all of those bands, then, do you? Well, yeah. It was weird. It sort of made, like, there was a little pivotal moment where I thought, actually, our little scene is a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were involved in this little scene, and
yeah, so looking at the compilation, it is still quite heavily Northwest, but there's international bands, a bit more of a spread. There is a spread of people on there, but they are nice. They acts as a snapshot in time, and it's a collection of, you know, where we were, what we were thinking, what the gigs that we went to were like at that time.
Yeah, I think that revisiting all this, the nicest thing has been that idea of a snapshot in time. You don't really think about it, and that, you know, I'm guessing a lot of people are in the same situation, but I've had a lot more time to listen to music than perhaps I've done in previous years when I've been touring and gigging loads. So I have sometimes just got a couple of cans and put an old record on, or, you know, I listen to a lot of these in preparation for doing this, and it's interesting, you know. A lot of things have happened, haven't they, that you don't necessarily remember that them properly and then visiting it. Like,
there's a lot of things that have happened that I don't necessarily remember, Andy.
well, there you go.
So yeah, that's
a fifth of the way through our output.
Oh, how long did this one take?
41 minutes.
It's only going to be 10 hours of videos to get through to the 100.
I mean, I was going to put snippets of tracks in between, so
yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry. All right.
Enjoy it.
No, I like it. It's even if it's just a chat between me and you, Andy, and nobody else listens, it's quite good because it's very easy just to carry on looking forward and not actually think about what we've done or think back 8 years, which seems a long way. But it's from, when did this come out? In like 2012, maybe?
We should have put the dates on, shouldn't we?
Yeah. And so 2012, so it's 2008 to 2012, 4 years, 20 releases. For people that don't know what they're doing, with no money, I think we did quite well.
Yeah, it's all right. It's passable. So yeah, if you bought it was 20, well done. Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean they're all available digitally, aren't they?
Yeah. Head over to Bandcamp, check them out digitally and elsewhere. A lot are still available.
Yeah, a lot of them aren't available physically anymore, but there's a decent amount of them that are.
So yeah, this is good.
Yeah. So
let's roll on.
Yeah. So yeah, episode 3 coming soon. 21 to 30. Check it out.
See you later.